Hello, my name is Chaz Kayada. Welcome back to my channel. This is the second video in a two-part series about mental health in education. Our other video talks about student mental health. In this video, we're going to look at teacher mental health. Uh, Mental health has been a topic that has been discussed a lot over the past few years, particularly since COVID. And what we're seeing is it's not just affecting the students, but in many ways, it's also affecting the teachers. And so this needs to be looked at and thought about and addressed because it's going to affect the quality and the number of teachers that we have in the workforce. So, according to Edutopia, roughly 60% of educators report high stress and burnout. So, when we talk about burnout, generally what we're talking about is a teacher that's doing their job and then eventually just says, whether it be psychological stress, physical stress, just workload management, any of these reasons, they are either going to give up and just leave the profession, or they unfortunately sometimes they don't leave the profession and they just reduce their standards and try to give less of themselves to the students because it's so taxing on them. And so anxiety and depression and exhaustion related to workloads, student behavior, and lack of administrative support are some of the reasons that are cited for this high stress and burnout. So, workloads. This is something that I've mentioned in other videos. Many people think, oh, well, teachers get a lot of time off. They shouldn't complain about workloads. But what they don't realize is that teachers work just as much in terms of raw hours work as any other career, except that during the school year, the teachers have to bring home their work with them. Oftentimes, you're doing grading on the weekends. You're doing a lot of work outside of just those hours that you're in school. And so, yeah, you, as a teacher, you may work 50 to 60 hours a week during the school year. So it evens out, and you're working at least an average of 40 hours a week. And then the fact that many teachers also work in the summer as well. Maybe they're summer camps that they work. Maybe they are tutors. Maybe they just pick up summer jobs. Many teachers don't take the summers off. And so they also are working year round, in addition to during school time, working significantly longer hours than the average person would. So all this has led to a mental health crisis that is affecting the teachers. And so the Center of American Progress notes that 70% of teachers during the first 5 years are either going to leave or will essentially think about and consider leaving their profession. And most stats that I found cite that about 50% of teachers will leave the profession within 5 years. So if we think about that, that's you know that's one of every two teachers that are hired need to be rehired within the first 5 years. And so for um, for a school district, you have to think, okay, well, that means I'm constantly uh, having to put in time and effort to hire and then train new teachers. And so this can, this can lead to lower overall performance in the schools as well, because if you don't have many long-term teachers, then you lose a lot of the wealth of knowledge that having taught for a long time gives you, right? And so anecdotally, we can look back at high school and you might say, oh man, that teacher is still there. I had her 25 years ago. And you may think that teachers often stay somewhere for a really long time, but the reality of it is the rest of the department may have turned over 7 times since you were in school. So um, this is something that will affect the quality of education, because if you constantly get new teachers in that haven't made some of the mistakes that older teachers have, that haven't had the experiences that some of the older teachers have, and they're going to constantly, you're going to have a new group of teachers that have to learn, those things. And that takes time. It takes time to become a quality educator. So this is why you see many of those teachers that have been somewhere for a very long time are retiring, and most schools do not have very many long-term teachers. I think the last school that I worked at, we might have had in the entire teaching, with over 50 teachers, there might have been two or three that were still teaching after 20 plus years. So at the same institution, I mean. So, this is something that needs to be addressed because it is not a great strategy to just consistently hire new people that you're going to most likely have to replace in the future. So now we've approached this from the leadership standpoint. I had a video where I talked about um, values, and leadership was really important to that. And so leadership plays a big role in keeping these teachers around, and reducing the mental strain that teaching has. Look, at the end of the day, there's really no way to have zero mental stress as a teacher. But I think that's the case with any job that you have. There's any job that's worth having is going to have some difficult times. Whether that even, that doesn't necessarily always mean that it's going to be a challenge just to motivate yourself to do it. But you know, jobs that are worth doing are going to challenge you to do better, right? So um, we need good leaders, though, to get the teachers over those challenges or through those challenges. And so Stanford actually cites that the study that they did, over 50% of principals did not get actual instruction on any institutional leadership. So essentially, you're becoming an administrator and you haven't actually had any training in administration. You are just, oh, you've been here long enough. Oh, we don't have anyone else applying for the job. Um, Go ahead. Here you go. You know, and they're being thrown into a position that they're not necessarily equipped for. So that's important to notice. And then 80% of the same study, 80% of superintendents believe that the trade prep, or traditional prep rather, um, for teachers is out of touch with the modern classroom. So even how we're teaching, when we do teach these leadership skills, or just any skills in general, professional development, superintendents are saying by and large that that doesn't work. That's too old. That's too old school. It's not how the world works now. So we need to address these in order to reduce the mental burden that teachers are having. Otherwise, we're just going to consistently see turnover. And unfortunately, it's really at the lowest levels in terms of grades. Your pre-K, your first, your second, kindergarten. Those are the grades where you see the highest turnover. There's a lot of stress that is involved with dealing with young children. If you've had a child, you would know what I'm talking about. I just have one, and sometimes, that's a lot. But we need to understand that we need to support the teachers. Administration needs to support the teachers. Teachers need to support each other, because it is, at the end of the day, it is a mentally difficult, mentally challenging occupation. And so, in order to reduce the turnover, and hopefully we can get that number down from the 50% that leave within 5 years. That's how we're going to rebound and build a strong educational foundation for our kids. Is to make sure teachers rather, are in the game longer, because teachers that were in the game longer will have experience that will help them interact with those students better, as opposed to just constantly having students that are coming out of college who may not have all of the tools in the tool belt that they need to help those kids. And then you're just constantly, recycling. So this was the second of the two videos talking with teacher mental health, but really teacher mental health can be addressed with some things that I believe are a little bit more tangible than the student mental health. And I think we know the reasons why teachers are having some of the mental health issues that they are, and we can address those things. We just have to address them, and that would be something that really school districts need to do sooner rather than later. So, all right, thank you for listening.